Hello, welcome to my channel. Today, I will show you a Japanese anime titled A Whisker Away. Spoiler alert, watch out and take care. A young middle school girl, Miyo, lives with her father as her mother has left her father since high school. Her father intends to marry a new wife and eventually does. That night, her mother meets with her. She tells her she didn't intend to leave her motherless, as she has her reason for her decision. Miyo isn't interested in understanding why her mother will make cruel decisions. She leaves her mother and rants to herself about how wicked the world can be. As she walks away, she walks into a man that sells cat's masks. She looks at the masks, and the man asks her to test one of them. The next day, Miyo goes to school. She walks to school with her best friend, Yuri. On her way, she sees her school crush, Hinode. Miyo likes Hinode so much that despite how much the boy dislikes her, she will always try to talk to him. She has a habit where she greets him every morning by shouting, "Hinode sunrise attack!" She does so to him, and he looks at her without care. Yuri advises that she is already looking like a stalker, so she should leave the boy alone, but she refuses to listen to the advice. After school that day, she walks home, and she meets one of the nose-poking neighbors who try to know if her stepmother is maltreating her. She tells the woman she is doing just fine and walks home. At home, her stepmother Kaoru tries to play with her, but she is indifferent. She plays with Kaoru's cat, Kinako, and enters her room. She takes the mask she borrowed from the mask seller, and she becomes a cat. She has once met Hinode while being a cat, and Hinode takes her as a stray cat and names her the same name as his former cat Taro. She listened to the conversation between Hinode's mother Sachiko and Hinode, where she is telling her son to further his education and help their family. Hinode plays with Taro and takes her to his grandfather's pottery shop. When it's night, Miyo leaves Hinode's home and changes back to a human by the rooftop. She picks up her mask again and leaves for home as a cat. On Miyo's way, she meets the mask seller, who asks her to give him her human face and live forever as a cat, since he thinks she is enjoying her cat life. She runs away from the man, refusing to drop her human face. Later, she and the seller sit down, thinking of how she could introduce herself to Hinode as Miyo and hopes he won't hate Taro when he knows Taro is the same schoolgirl he hates, Miyo. She returns home for dinner, and her father and stepmother attempt to draw her closer to them, but their attempts are futile. The next day at school, she tries to jump at Hinode, shouting, "Hinode sunrise attack!" but he leaves her to fall. At lunch break, she overhears two of their classmates talking about Hinode. They say he is getting too proud and mighty. Although she had heard them gossiping about her too, she decided to jump down the fence to defend Hinode. She falls, but stands up back to defend him. Hinode calls her and warns her to stop being reckless. He takes her to the nurse. She had poured her food away while she jumped, so he offers his meal during the meal. He comments that Miyo has the same scent as Taro. For the first time, she can get closer to Hinode, and he also compliments her. She returns home happy about all that has happened to her. She meets Kaoru excited and goes to pick up her mask. She changes to Taro and visits Hinode. As she gets there, she overhears that Hinode's grandfather's pottery shop will be shut down due to the absence of funds. And that's the only thing Hinode is enticed to. He gets very sad as his mother encourages him to study for his examination. Hinode goes into his room, sad and gloomy. Taro watches him from the window, and she feels sorry for him. Taro changes back into a human and goes back home for dinner. The meal is one of her best, but she couldn't enjoy the meal. She returns to her room, takes her cat mask, and changes into a cat again. She visits Hinode in the pottery studio and plays with him. He carries her and tells her he wishes he can tell his mother how exactly he feels, and he can be bold like his classmate, Miyo. He concludes that Miyo says whatever is in her mind without considering what people think about her, and he wishes he is like Miyo. At home, Kaoru enters Miyo's room to give her something. And she doesn't see Miyo. She hurriedly goes to Miyo's father to declare Miyo is missing, and they try to find her. While they search, Miyo returns home. She tells her parents she was only on the rooftop. Before sleeping, she decides to write a letter to Hinode, so he will say to him that she also feels depressed sometimes, and she isn't as bold as he thinks she is. She composes this letter all through the night, and she could barely get enough sleep. At school, she brings the letter out and attempts to give it to Hinode, but one of the class bullies, Banai, takes the letter. Banai reads this letter to the whole class, and Hinode is embarrassed. Banai mocks her and asks if she isn't embarrassed by her acts, but Miyo insists she can't be embarrassed by expressing her feelings to someone she loves. This gets Hinode angry. He takes the letter from Banai and walks away. Apologetically, Miyo tries to tell Hinode she wrote the letter to make him feel better, and they are the same. However, Hinode replies to her they aren't the same, and he isn't as shameless as she is. He calls her pushy and says he hates obsessed people. He comments that he hates her, and he squeezes her letter away. Miyo walks out of the class, and her best friend Yuri walks after her, crying. Yuri asks her to forget Hinode, or she will stop being friends with him. Back home, she stays in her room, crying. Kaoru knocks and asks if she can enter. Miyo cleans her face, pretends as if she is exercising, and asks Kaoru to enter. Kaoru tries to make her feel better. She realizes she is making Miyo more uncomfortable, and she asks her. She says she thinks Miyo is pretending to her, and Miyo is fond of faking smiles for her. This triggers Miyo's angry state. She comments that the adults are selfish, and they should stop assuming for her, as she doesn't care about them. She takes her cat mask and leaves. She stops on the road, cries all her pain, returns to a cat, and goes to Hinode's house. She meets Hinode while he is thinking about how he reacted to Miyo. As Taro gets there, Hinode is with Taro and tells Taro he loves her. For the first time, Taro spends the night at Hinode's home. She is glad to sleep beside him, and she smiles at the opportunity to watch the sunrise with Hinode, just like her slang of calling him Hinode's sunrise attack. She wakes and realizes it is past school time. She remembers she is a cat and doesn't need to go to school. The mask seller appears to her again. He asks if she is ready to give up her identity as a human, and she tells him she is done with being human. As she makes this statement, her human face falls off her body, and the mask seller takes the face. He tells her he will sell the face mask to any cat who wants to buy it. Meanwhile, Miyo's father and Kaoru notice her absence, and they start looking for her. They visit her school and declare her missing. They meet with Yuri, Miyo's only friend, and decide to find her. Yuri tells the class about this new development, and Hinode offers to go with her. While they search for her, Yuri tells Hinode that she had been Miyo's only friend since elementary school, as all their classmates refused to be Miyo's friend after her mother left. Her parents also try to find her. Her mother calls her father to visit their home, and when she figures her daughter is missing, she gets angry. Miyo decides to see her home again. She sees her stepmother and her mother fighting. As she leaves home, she also sees Yuri looking for her in the rain. The teacher meets with Yuri and asks about Hinode. Shockingly, Miyo realizes that Hinode is also looking for her. She goes back to Hinode's place. As Hinode returns, he asks his grandfather to cover his absence from his mother, as he is about to set out again to find Miyo. Taro stays on his arm, and they go out to find Miyo. While they sit, Hinode tells Taro he likes Miyo, but he can't express it as she does. Taro realizes she no longer understands human conversations as she turns into a cat. She regrets her decision to change. The cat seller eventually sells Miyo's face to another buyer, and the new buyer resumes school with Miyo's face. The new buyer of the face is Kinako, Karu's cat. As she gets to school, she doesn't make the Hinode sunrise attack and behaves more weirdly than Miyo. Another time, she forgets to walk home with Yuri, and the last thing that makes everyone think she is different is when she tells Hinode she wants to spend the night with him. They realize Miyo will never say such a statement, and they wonder who the new Miyo is. Miyo meets with Kanako and begs for her face, but Kanako refuses. Kanako says he bought the face so she would become human and spend a lot of time with Karu, as her lifespan as a cat is short-lived. Miyo realizes she won't be able to get her face back from Kinako, so she asks Kinako where she can find the mask seller. Kinako directs her toward a path. She says if Miyo can successfully see the path, then she is gradually becoming a whole cat, and she will switch completely during the cat festival. She also explains that when a human face is bought like that, the buyer and the mask seller share the human lifespan, so the mask seller can also live long. Miyo sees that path, walks through it, and sees the mask seller, who refuses to return her face. She sees invincible stairs and follows the mask seller into the secret island of cats, hoping to turn back into a human. At Miyo's home, Yuri calls Kinako to ask her to a festival, but Kinako refuses the offer and asks to attend the festival with Karu. However, Karu is too busy looking for her cat. She realizes she can never replace the cat in Karu's heart, and she regrets buying Miyo's face. She also decides to give up on the face. Kinako visits Hinode and asks him if he loves her. Hinode says Miyo would never say such a thing. Kinako changes into a cat, holding Miyo's face, and tells Hinode all that had happened. She tells him he is the only one who could save Miyo and make her human back. She asks him to follow her to the secret island of the cats. Miyo gets to the cat island and tries to look for the cat seller. She finds some cats who tell her they were also once human, and they regret their decision to change into a cat. On the other hand, Kinako takes Hinode to the island too. Since he is on the cat island, he starts changing into a cat too, and his hands have changed. They eventually meet the mask seller. Kinako asks to return the face, but the mask seller refuses. He tells her even if she drops her face, he won't leave Miyo's lifespan that he has collected. Miyo talks to the cats that were once human. They tell her they regret that they ran from their responsibility as humans, and they advise her to face her fears. The mask seller meets her there. He informs her he has kidnapped Kinako and Hinode. She is shocked that Hinode is also there, so the mask seller explains that Hinode came to find her, and he will take Hinode's lifespan too. The other cats there hit the mask seller. They tell him Miyo is still a kid, and he should return her face. Miyo runs to the store where Hinode is. Kinako changes into a cat and gives Miyo her face, but Miyo can't change. The mask seller takes Miyo away. He takes her to the promise place alongside Hinode and tells them his plan to take both their lifespan once the tree on the promise place comes alive. Hinode wishes his life to fight for Miyo's lifespan. As the fight continues, Miyo realizes she has been selfish all her life by not recognizing Hinode loves her. The other cats come by, and they join them in the battle. Eventually, Hinode gets Miyo's lifespan back. He gives it to her, and Kinako rides them into the land. While in the boat, Hinode tells Miyo that everyone missed her at school. This makes Miyo realize she has been the selfish one who shuts herself away from everyone. At the end of the movie, Hinode confesses his love to her. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to our channel to get notified when we post the following recap. See you next time.